I am now joined by Conservative councillor for Chichester East in the United Kingdom and co-founder of the free trade think tank, The Channel Group, Thomas Dempster. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Sam.
We have to start, of course, with the general election. It's been a relatively decent one for you and your party so far, but Labour has recently been catching up in the polls. The poll leads of 21 points are no more, and we see the lead being cut down to sometimes as little as 12. So do you have any concerns for your party that this election is maybe not as cut and dry as you thought?
Well, we did see a really dodgy piece of poll reporting. I think it might have been in the Daily Mail, where different polls were compared, and you had a poll which had traditionally or reliably given a 20-point lead to the Conservatives, being compared to one that had reliably given sort of a 12 or 14-point lead. And they were compared to show, goodness me, overnight the Conservatives lose, half their poll lead. And you can't compare between polls, and this is something that that everyone is going mad about, because the polls in the 2015 general election and the referendum, even with Trump, were so bad already. And it's so difficult to poll in this kind of new electoral environment that even before you start comparing between polls and misreporting them, we're in a bad place already. So what I would say is, if you compare the polls like for like, support seems to be holding up. And let's not forget, Sam, that this is a record level of support. We haven't seen this, for a long time in some cases, particularly in places like Scotland, in Wales. This is a real shift. And so I think if we've hit a peak and we're coming slightly down, and the polls are naturally adjusting, there's a little bit of euphoria around the first one to poll 50% for the Conservatives. That's fine. If we drop a few points from that, that's not a big issue. And without sounding like Theresa May, the polls aren't everything. You can't look at the polls and say, we're going to win 409 seats or whatever they predict. They're just a snapshot.
Perhaps, but as Theresa May, the Prime Minister, promises a strong and stable government, don't you feel that there is a bit of overconfidence on your part? For example, we saw this morning the Berlin bureau chief, Jeremy Cliff of The Economist, posting a tweet thread in which Theresa May, speaking to Jean-Claude Juncker and the EU, seems to presume that she's already won the election. She's already going to be Prime Minister.
I think that, well, certainly if that thread can be...
I should say it came from the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. That was the source of Cliff's information.
Yeah, I was disappointed not having any knowledge of German. I was disappointed not to be able to read the original piece, but if you haven't read it, then you should go and read the thread. It's sort of 30 tweets summarising this story and laying out exactly why May is being overconfident, showing a bit of bravado. And basically the Commission are saying, or behind closed doors are saying, this lady's crazy, she's got no idea, the Brexit negotiations are going to fall apart, and you can't have your cake and eat it, I think was the phrase that Boris Johnson used. And they're saying you can either have your cake or you can eat it. You can't have a fantastic deal and not pay any bill for leaving the EU and have a trade deal. So in part of this thread, one of the pieces was that she's already, or she thinks she's likely to be re-elected the Prime Minister. And certainly that's not something that she's saying publicly in the UK. In the UK, she's talking up the possibility of Jeremy Corbyn becoming Prime Minister. And it's something that's quite interesting, actually, looking at the campaign materials that are being put out, looking at the rallies that she's holding. Almost nowhere does it say Conservatives. If you look at all these prospective parliamentary candidates literature, it's all about them being Theresa May's candidate in the constituency. So it's all about her, because she has such positive ratings as the Prime Minister compared to Jeremy Corbyn. Yes. So it's her versus Jeremy rather than the Conservatives versus Labour. I think that the polling, for Theresa versus Jeremy, I think that kind of stacks up to what people are saying around the country. I think we can all, even if you are a Labour supporter, you might say that Theresa May is more Prime Ministerial than Jeremy Corbyn. But I personally would agree with you, Sam. I was really sceptical when the general election was called. I thought that we should never do something like that. I mean, think back, to last year, a Conservative Prime Minister calling an unneeded election or referendum that he thought he was absolutely destined to win. It's just inviting the public to slap you down. And I think once you start taking the electorate for granted, they know when you're doing that, and they will punish you. I think it's exactly the kind of politics that Donald Trump and the referendum, it's all goes against Theresa May's position as kind of taking it for granted.